there is this um power that so many of us have been, and especially over lineages, right? Over generations, like that is just been pushed down, and it's like, oh no, we have to be this way, we have to be da 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 to like be accepted and to fit into this mold. And it comes back to people pleasing and like this and fawning and like fear of showing up and like what's gonna happen if we aren't ourselves. And so it's at a surface level it can feel so easy to just be yourself, just be authentic. But we have these deep belonging wounds, and it's not new, right? It's like it is there's so much shadow for so many of us when it comes to just being ourselves.
Okay, well, to start off, do you want to introduce yourself? I know you, but other people who hear or see this won't know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm Malachi. I also go by Kai. My last name is Kohler. Um, I toy with the name Malachi of Many for writing and art and that because I don't know, it kind of just came to me as a way to describe myself. I don't like bios. I don't like bios. But people ask for them and it's like, okay, how do I describe myself on paper? It feels difficult sometimes, but I was like, okay, I have a lot of passions. I have a lot of things that I like to do in the world, and it's so hard to like put myself into like one thing. So, yeah, a lover of many things.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So let me reframe. Okay. Um, Kai, what are you passionate about?
Ah, right now, gosh, so many things just came into my head, but I think at the root of it, it's really what I'm most passionate about is like individual and collective like expression and authenticity, right? And how that relates to like, okay, how can we be free and like this liberation movement? Um, and also like what does wellness look like for each individual person? What does wellness look like as a collective? How do we unpack that? How do we get there on an individual level, on a community level, on a collective level? And thinking about like what are the barriers to those things. Obvious, I mean, there's some very obvious, clear things, but then at the minute level too, right? So it's like, what are the tiny things that maybe don't feel so tiny that are barriers to us doing the thing? It's like, okay, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, like those kinds of things. What does that look like and how does that maybe prevent some of us from really showing up in our passions, in our dreams, and whatnot?
Where would you say the passion originated from? We've never had this conversation, so this is, I'm excited.
It's juicy. Um, where did it originate from? I saw my mom like helping people a lot when I was young. She was always like community oriented. We did this thing all the time. Well, not all the time, like yearly, I guess, called Operation Christmas Child. And you would like have a shoebox that you would put toys in and stuff. And I don't remember where they went, but I remember the name of it. Um, and so I really grew up with her um, giving a lot. But then she got sick, and it was really difficult to witness that. And so I think, and it's taken a long time. This was when I was she got sick when I was like 10-ish. And So I'm still kind of processing like how that major shift in how I was living life, I guess, really impacted things. But um, it's like what does I don't know, not even like what does being well look like when you're chronically ill, but it's like how does our life shifts and like um how do you have grace with yourself when you're like, oh, I used to be able to do these things and now I can't do these things, and how to na wrestle with that and navigate that. And so I don't think I was having those thoughts coherently when I was young, but really looking back on it, I'm like, oh, okay, if I can pinpoint kind of like what feels underneath this drive, I would say that that's probably um, what it is. And um, I was really interested. So both my parents are social workers. And so I grew up in like a therapy household, which is interesting. But I would say, where was I going with this? Um, oh, I grew up like really interested in psychology. So I was like, okay, like what makes people do the things they do? Like what and like what's underneath all of these things. And so from a very young age, I had kind of like that vocabulary it was just regular, degular conversations about like what is giving you joy, what's difficult for you, So I think having that from a young age gave me kind of the perspective, blueprint, whatever you want to call, to to be thinking about that through through as I grew up, through as I became me.
Yeah. I identify a bit with you, like with you talking about how things changed once your mom got sick. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think people talk enough about the impact of having like an ill parent,
Mm.
especially at that young of an age. My mom, she once she had my sister, she struggled really bad with like postpartum depression for like
Hmm.
some years, and she also has like, some chronic illnesses and stuff like that. But it's like I remember clearly like before and after. And so it's almost like
Yeah.
my childhood is like split in two. And yeah, that's something interesting to navigate, especially at the age of, I think for me, I was around like 9 or 10. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I have a sister as well, but she's older than me. She's 8 years older than me. So it was also interesting because I think my mom started getting sick like right after my sister went away to college. So it was like, oh, here's this big life transition where like your sister's not here. And then, so it was interesting because like she just had a very different experience of that. Um, yeah.
Yeah. It creates a lot of, which I guess looking back now, I never really thought about it until listening to you talk, but it does create a lot of empathy, as a
Mm,
person because, I think the way that society treats disability in this country in general is a whole thing on its own. But to see it up close is,
yeah.
yeah, is really eye-opening and kind of changes the way that you view well, not even kind of, but like very much changes the way you view the world and other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I get so mad. I get so mad. So one thing is like, um, it took some time for my mom to get diagnosed and to figure out like what was going on. But then, um, like I started having some health difficulties, and she was like, I think that what you have could be what I have, right? And so we did a whole thing of testing, and it was a lot. Like I was regularly going to doctor's appointments that were like 2 hours away from the city. So it's like I would have to take off of work. My parents were split. And so there wasn't very good communication between the two of them of like what was going on. And just the amount of um shit that I dealt with as a kid. And, and not only from the medical industry, but also from my teachers. Like, because um, it's considered an invisible disorder or disease or whatever you want to call it. It's like people just assume I'm also thin. I've always been thin. So it's like they see you and they're like, oh, like there's nothing wrong with you. I still to this day get comment like people like older folks will be like, you're young, you can sit on the floor. Like you're young, your knees are probably it's like just like a thing where people are just like, you're young, you must be fit, you must be healthy. And it's like so frustrating our assumptions. It makes sense, right? With like what we're inundated with, like the societal mindset, it makes sense. And it's so frustrating and it's very harmful. And I dealt with it a lot, and I dealt with internalized ableism for a really long time. Um, excuse me, I still do, to a point of like struggling to advocate for myself of like and balancing like oh when do I disclose this information to someone I remember writing in my journal once of like what was it I was being angsty and I was like I can't remember exactly what I said but I was just frustrated and like why do I have to prove that I'm disabled like why do I have to disclose that why can't people just like be fucking nice and have compassion and be empathetic and not make assumptions that like oh if this person isn't showing up in this way that automatically means that like they don't care or like they're lazy or like whatever so yeah I get really mad about other things too but I've got a lot of fire in here I have an Aries stellium are you into astrology have we talked about astrology
Yes, although not nearly as deep into it as you and my sister. Like my sister is like, "Oh, my third house is this and blah blah blah,"
yeah
Aries. Although in Vedic astrology, I'm a Libra. So,
mm-hmm.
that's been interesting, but yeah, that's about the I would have to go and I never I haven't memorized it, so I'll have to go and figure out because I can't remember. I think my Aries is okay. Aries sun, is that right? Or rising?
Well,
And
you have
then,
there's both. There's sun, moon, and rising is usually like the order that people give them.
okay. Then my main one is Aries. I know for a fact, at least in Western astrology, my moon is in Libra, but I'm not sure what the sun is. Maybe the sun
Right.
is Aries too. Is that possible to be a sun, an Aries rising and sun?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna count this as homework. Go back and look it up. My sister is like, she's like pulled my chart before, I think, and she's like, oh, this makes sense, that makes sense, and I'm just like, cool. And I've read it before, and it does make sense, but yeah, I don't have it all memorized like you guys do. Like, if you told me that
Yeah.
somebody told me they were like a Gemini, I'm not one of those that's like, Gemini. I know. I'm like, cool.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I just checked your birthday and definitely sun, Aries sun, so Libra moon makes sense. And then maybe Aries rising as well, but I know my own chart and I know like some of the archetypes of certain planets or signs, but I usually refer back to my notes unless like something is currently happening in the sky, then I retain that information, but yeah.
Yeah, I've told my sister, I'm like, I will at some point get to a point where I can remember and like learn it and all of that stuff. It's just it feels like trying to catch up on like Marvel movies. Like there's 30 something
Mm.
Mar or 20 something Marvel movies. I don't think I'll ever catch up. And so sometimes I feel like that about astrology. I'm like, will I ever be able to memorize all this information in my head?
You gotta start small,
Yeah,
bite size.
I will. I will. Well, at least I can remember. Now I know sun and rising are two different things. So
Yeah.
that's a good start. Um, in terms of your um like experience with like hidden disability and having, a relative who also struggled with disability and all of that. How would you say that's informed your um views on like liberation and even like decolonialism and things like that?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I feel like it's not like it doesn't feel tangible to me, right? Because it's like it feels kind of like underneath it all of like, but I mean, I think when it comes to organizing, I'm one, especially, and I think so. I am neurodivergent as well, and I figured that out in like 2022 era, and I'm still on the journey of like, okay, what do they say? It's like, what is my specific spice, you know? Like, what is my specific neurospice? But got formally diagnosed with ADHD around 2022, and I think that is something that is so much easier for me to talk about and grapple with and be like, okay, and make sense of. I think and this is actually it's funny because it's related to astrology a little bit, but my mind makes so much more sense to me, and my body feels farther away. And I coped with a lot of things as a kid through dissociation. And so that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like away from the body into the mind. And so I just relate that to it. I, when organizing, I do try to think about just general accessibility, right? It's like, how do we get the information out in a way that is going to be able to be received by people? How do we find a venue that is not only like accessible for regarding mobility, but also like how are people getting there? Is it like close to transit? Um, is there parking or whatever? Which I forget about that one a lot because I don't have a car. But anyways, just like what are the things and I think also aligning myself with people who just have the knowledge. It's like one of those things where it's just like you don't wanting to not always have to advocate for myself, right? It's like if we are all advocating for things to be accessible, for things to um, be able to be found and attended by various people, regardless of what's going on, that it's like, oh, I don't have to try as hard. It's like we're all holding that, you know, and so trying to align and naturally gravitating towards those kinds of people um, is, yeah, I guess what I would say. And I already don't fully remember your exact question, but I think I responded. I think I responded to it.
Yeah, you did. Um, as far as finding those people, what has that process been like, or that journey been like?
Yeah, so I moved to Pittsburgh during quarantine, like not at the beginning, but I think it was like August 2020. Um, and it was weird and hard because things were still like closed. Um, but so, I mean, it'll be, gosh, it'll be 6 years this fall that I've been here. And I think it's been gradual, right? So, like a lot of folks who are neurodivergent, like it's kind of like a running thing that we flock together. And that's one of the ways that I figured out that the light bulb kind of hit. I was like, all of my friends have ADHD. What? And so they're being like, this might make sense for me. Let me look into this. And so I think natural that it's kind of like a natural gravitation towards each other. And then also what I am what's a constant through line in my life is like honoring my own authenticity. And there was something that I wrote the other day. So I'm in this Woman Who Runs with the Wolves. Have you heard of this book?
Yeah, my best friend loves that book.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I've read a bit of it. Yeah.
jonker. But I'm in this reading group, study group more so, but there's a writing portion of it, and I wrote about one of the prompts was like uh how does the wild woman like want to be expressed through you? And I wrote about um because as I mentioned at the beginning, right, this fear of rejection, this fear of being seen is very alive in me. And that what I received and wrote in this container was um that being authentic, or I wrote, your truth attracts and repels,
Mhm.
right? And so what has been so clear to me is this repelling, right? And losing people that I care about and feeling shitty about that and feeling hurt and feeling rejected, abandoned, whatever. But it's actually really important that that process is happening because as I am coming more into my truth, it is more the people who are not right for me are going to see themselves out, find their way out, whether I'm pushing or they're retreating. But one thing that is harder for me to see is the attraction, right? It's like your truth is not just going to repel. It might be easier to see or it might be more sensitive to it, but the truth is also going to attract the right people and the people that we need to be in, whether that's, reason, season, lifetime, whatever. But I really want to challenge myself into seeing that attraction more and um being patient with it because I am so like I want things now. I'm like, oh, I have so much Aries energy, so much fire, so much like now, now, now that it's hard for me to sit with it and like wait, wait for the right people to come. It does happen. Um, like I have been finding the people, and the people have been finding me. But yeah, I want to work on the patience and navigating like the instant gratification and all of those things.
Why do you think it's harder for you to see the attraction?
Yeah, I think, well, so another framework that I like is thinking about our slowest parts. And we can't go f faster than our slowest parts, right? Because we'll shock them essentially. And that language was with when I was in a container with Brianna Ned. What was it? The Sustainable Life Cadence. And that was in like 2022, and I've still like held on to that with me. Yeah, so and a while ago I named my slowest parts as like critics, right? Cynics and critics. And so I that's what's coming up for me when you ask that question is like I and with the body stuff too, right? Because um I do dissociate because I spent a lot of my life in pain and a lot of my life not understanding where that pain was coming from or what was causing it. And so it was easier to just um avoid some of the things or to just like go into the reading and just like escape in the book, I actually wrote a piece uh about Damiana. It's an herb that I am working with, and the
What's it
first
called?
time Damiana,
Mm.
it's a yellow flower native to Mexico and like Southwest United States. Um, and the first time I smoked her, I really like experienced my body in a pleasant way. It's like I felt like the edges of myself kind of like tingling. And it's just so interesting and new. And I'm trying to lean into curiosity with it of like, oh, what is it like to just feel a body regularly and to feel that body not always from a landscape or orientation around pain, but of one of pleasure as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I've tried to, especially in, I guess, well, I think honestly, really since COVID, since it started, like really think about my connection to my body. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know if it's going to sound weird when I say it. I feel like I've been able to identify more with death than like the connection to my body.
Mm.
Um, and I say that as someone who experienced like, the death of a parent from a very young age. I've always had this like knowing about that and an awareness of it, but I've not always had an awareness of like my body as it lives right now in this
Yeah.
world. Um, and then a couple of years ago, I had to have surgery for an illness, and that put me even into more awareness of my body. But that's something that, and I think that it's, probably by design, especially in the society that we live in, like the power that we could have and that we could cultivate if all of us were very aware and connected,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
accepting of it. So I've been thinking about that more and more, but especially since I guess 2020 and then definitely since like 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what you said too about like imagine what, because we have so much power within us, but it's like imagine what we could do if we had unlimited regular access to that power, right? And it's like there is intentional repression of that because it's because they know that we could do so much. And I think about that too when it comes to um and this is again related to like the wild woman archetype and uses of the erotic Audre Lorde, like that kind of stuff of like there is this um power that so many of us have been, and especially over lineages, right? Over generations, like that is just been pushed down, and it's like, oh no, we have to be this way, we have to be da 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 to like be accepted and to fit into this mold, and it comes back to people pleasing and like this and fawning and like fear of showing up and like what's going to happen if we aren't ourselves. And so it's at a surface level it can feel so easy to just be yourself, just be authentic, but we have these deep belonging wounds and it's not new, right? It's like it is there's so much shadow for so many of us when it comes to just being ourselves. And like you know, even the most like confident, there's like the saying of like have the have the confidence of like a white straight man, you know? It's like even yeah, but it's like I guarantee even them they aren't really being themselves, right? It's like are they really being their authentic selves? I have a hard time believing that because even though I don't have that same wounding that they do, like I am sure there is also wounding there too, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like it's not as simple as just being yourself, because if it was, we wouldn't be here. We would live in a completely different world if we all regularly knew and felt confident and comfortable just like living our authentic lives.
Yeah. Uh, you talking about that wound, it reminds me of my grandma and honestly, okay, so backstory. My grandma she will be, I think, like 74 this year, but she throughout my whole life and even before I was even here has always been a little bit thicker and things like that. And it's always like I've always seen kind of the battle against her and her own body, whether it's
Mm.
a diet or this and that. And, like it's just always been something. And she's always had like, chronic illnesses and things like that. Um, and just recently she's been having more health issues. So I've been helping her go to like the doctor and things like that and spending a lot more time with her and my grandpa. But like recently she's been saying things like, "Oh, I'm down to 145 pounds," like really proud. But
Hmm.
in my mind, all I can think about is you're proud of that, but you got there through sickness. Like it's,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I realized that I'll say maybe specifically for women, uh, and I'll say for myself, like I think that we live in a world where many of us will not be satisfied until we are withered away.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I see it in
No.
her. I've seen it in once you see it, it's really you can't unsee it. But I think that yes, I think that society tells us and we tell ourselves and we internalize it that we will not be satisfied with ourselves until we are withered. And I
Yeah.
think about the power that she had while she was younger. When I was, yeah, I just remember her being like this, like wonderful, strong figure. And that's when I was like the most, like, I admire her now, but like, I really like admired her. Like, she was like my everything. And when I was younger, when she was that, and it's the fact that she can't see that for herself.
Mm.
It's only now
Hmm.
that she's withering that she's like, proud, you know. Like, oh, my
Yeah.
ankles are so small. Like, look how little my legs are. But like, she shuffles around. She can't, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely a deep wound. And it definitely is something that I think um, for sure goes back generations. But for
Hmm.
myself, I'm trying to recognize it in other people and then recognize the ways that I do it to myself. Um, doesn't make it easy, but yeah. Um, yeah. So, um, I feel like I got off on a tangent on that one.
No, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Um, so what have you been up to recently? Like what have you been thinking about recently, just in general?
Yeah. Um, I don't know, like identity crises, LOL. Um, no, I'm in my Saturn return. So my Saturn is in Aries and it's like um, shaking things up,
Yeah.
right? And I felt the energy of it far before this, and I feel like I had a breakup in 2023 that shook a lot for me. And I think I have been on a very clear, to me, clear journey like from that moment. It was kind of like a catalyst of like and not just the breakup, but that relationship of like, okay, we're shaking up your relationship with this thing, and then here's another relationship that you meaning me, tried to like really learn from and take the lessons and do things differently. And then at the end of that, you realize, shit, you didn't do it that differently, did you? You know? And really just coming to terms with some of my shadows, which I'm navigating this shadow of shame that came through this journey of like, okay, um, it took time to name it as that, and now that it's named as that, what are we doing with it? How are we navigating it? Um, and yeah, that's really been present. I think it's morphed a little bit recently. Um, and I'm navigating uh on a personal, spiritual level, just like this relationship with instant gratification, which I mentioned a little bit before of like um my brain is so quick that I don't often take the time to just pause. And it's like, okay, how does that show up in my work? How does that show up in my personal life? How does that show up in like my creativity? Um, how does instant gratification relate to perfectionism? Because it's like I'm not just a recovering perfectionist. It's like I want it to be perfect and I want it to be perfect now. Like I don't have time to like for the journey. No, now. Um, so wrestling with that and I have been leaning into my writing practice more and trying to nourish my writing practice. And I'm also nourishing my collage practice right now. And I'm excited about both of those things. And it is like the nourishing process is also how I am trying to practice working through these things of like, how long am I sitting with this poem, editing it? Like when is it coming from within me? And when am I relating to this piece in a way that feels, even though I may not be happy with it, like when am I relating it from a place of creativity and a place of expansiveness versus when am I relating to it up here and like, oh, it needs to feel this way, it needs to sound this way, you know? And when do I stop? When do I put it away? When do I let my collage not look the way that I want it to? Like when do I um and also what emotional mental state am I in when I'm working on these things, right? I feel like I need to stop watching TV when I collage and just put music on. But I also am like really wanting to just watch the show and know what happens in the thing. Like I want to do so many things at once. Um, and there's just not enough time in the day, especially because I have a not ideal sleep schedule for the society that I am in. Yeah, that's a ball of things that I'm thinking about and doing right now.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I know I just said that I don't know much about astrology terminology, but I do know about Saturn return. I do remember that
Yes.
specifically. Um, you said you're just starting it, or where would you
Yes.
say you're in there?
Yeah, yes and no. So it's like a 3-year process, and it started for me like in 2025. There was like a several month period where Saturn was in Aries, but then it retrograded to Pisces and was in Pisces for a few months. But then it was a recent Friday. I think was it Friday the 13th? It might have been Friday the 13th, but or the 16th or something. Anyways, a couple weeks ago, Saturn went into Aries and it's gonna be in Aries for 3 years. So I had like a teaser and then it's like full send.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I definitely need to pull up my chart because now I'm curious if I would be in a Saturn return.
Well, you're older than me.
Oh, so it's based on age too.
Yeah, so Saturn, what is it? It takes like 20, it's the rotation. Yeah, it takes like 27 years-ish to
Oh, okay.
um to go through the cycle. So
Yeah.
I'll be 28 next month. So it's like you usually have your first Saturn return in like the 27 to 30 age range, and then so people will have a couple during their lifetime typically because you'll have one like in your 2030s, in your like 50s, 60s, and then 80s or whatnot.
Yeah, then that makes total sense because yeah, 20, I would say 26 to about yeah, 30. That was there was a
Hmm.
lot going on.
Yeah.
Um, as far as your creativity, um, I mean, you're asking a lot of questions. How many answers have you gotten or
I don't know
figured
if there
out?
are answers, like I don't, and that's something that I have to navigate too, because I always want to know. I always want to know. I don't like the unknown. But yeah, I've often been called like inquisitive or whatever. There's another I word maybe. No, I think just inquisitive because inquiry. But yeah, I ask a lot of questions and I think asking the question is part of the answer, because it's like and I don't think I'm really supposed to know many of these things or have tangible answers, right? But I part of me asking is how I'm moving towards it. You know what I mean? Because it's like so many of these things that I'm talking about are abstract, right? It's like there's not like sure, we have definitions of perfectionism and definitions of people pleasing and definitions of shame and sacrifice and like yada yada, but that's going to look differently for each individual, right? You might have some patterns that look similar, but it's going to feel differently, it's going to manifest differently. And that's one of my favorite things that is also one of the things I resent a lot of the time is like how a thing shows up again and again and again, right?
Mm.
Because it's like as Dr. says, healing is a spiral, right? And so it's like, and that's one of the symbols that I really appreciate after being in her containers is that symbol, right? Because it's like I feel like, and that's why it feels so okay for me to be like, no, this is a journey that I've been on since like 2021, 2023. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it's very difficult for me to have the clarity of like, oh shit, this is the same thing that I've been working on that's showing up again and again. So I have both ends of the spectrum kind of responses to it of like, oh, I'm really appreciative of this, and also like, I thought I did this. I thought I figured this out. Yeah, which is the patience too, of like having the patience with myself of like um I'm not always gonna know. I'm not always gonna have it all like figured out or whatever. But anyways.
Yeah. I think for me, when it comes to my creative practice, like, um, one, I don't think I ask questions really. I think that I
Mm,
got to a point where I got tired of asking so many questions because I'm also very inquisitive, and so I was like, at some point, you just have to feel, like, let yourself feel, what
mm-hmm,
feels right, what feels like flow and aligned, and just like not try to force things. So that's kind of what I've been doing this year. That's not kind of, it's what I've been doing this year of
mm-hmm,
noticing when it's more so about noticing, I think for me. It's like noticing when I'm enjoying myself and noticing when I hit that point where I don't want to do it anymore, but I like in my mind feel like I have to because I have to finish this thing. It's things
mm-hmm,
like that for me. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's all like a spiral. And I get frustrated with myself sometimes, but it's like it's always you're dealing with the same type of, well, for me, always dealing with the same type of thing, but like from a different angle, or like
yeah,
in a different way. Yeah.
yeah. It teaches you another thing, it's like it's showing like the next lesson, right? It's like, okay, you did like a curriculum. It's like, okay, we did like we did grade one, level one. You upgraded, you can navigate the deeper things. Because for a while it felt like regression to me.
Mm.
It felt like I thought I dealt with this. Like it feels like I'm going backwards, and I really had to, and I don't think it was an intentional reframe either. I think it happened pretty slowly of like, no, like it's okay. It actually is a signal of growth that you can see this pattern actually, because so many of us just like don't see the patterns, you know?
Mm.
So just like noticing it in the first place is huge, right? And then it's like, okay, am I going to react differently? And I have to give myself a lot of grace. Uh, I don't give myself the grace when I relate to it in the same way or like look back on it. I'm like, oh, I wish I had done that differently. But it's like, okay, I'm like navigating with what I have, with the tools that I have, And there's also like so much shit in the air. Like there's so much shit going on that it's like it's not just about me. And it's not just about like me and this person. It's also like where's my nervous system at? Like what is going on in our country, in our world? Because it's like we are all reacting and relating to our society in granular ways that like we can't cognitively know, And I think it's hard for me at least to remember that and to be like, it's okay. The world is on fire and simultaneously drowning. So it's okay if you mess up. It's all right.
Well, through all of this, the fire and the drowning, what has been giving you joy and keeping you hopeful?
Yeah, community for sure. I'm really motivated by connection and relationships. Um, and over the past couple of years, because when I first moved to Pittsburgh, so much of my community was still online because everyone had kind of moved to doing the Zoom calls and like yada yada. My work was remote, even though I was in the city. Um, we were still, and so it, it took some time to find community, but now that I feel like I have the places that I feel, um, you know, w welcome in or like, oh, I even on Monday I went to a thing that I've been trying to go to for like a year and a half, and I knew like 10 people there. I was like, oh, hey, I can't like this is so good, and it's so nice to go to a place like by myself or with like one other person and not realize that like, oh, I actually do have community. Um, yeah, and the people that like you asked earlier about like finding the right people, the people that I have connected with, I feel are very value aligned, right? It's like so much of my work is in the queer community, is like with folks of color, are with like abolitionists and anarchists, and also like the people who are spiritual in those intersections as well. And yeah, so I think just like going to these places and know that we're also holding it. Like we're here and we're together and we're holding the grief. We're here, we're together and we're also like fighting, and it's like maybe not in this moment because we still need the joy, but yeah, and knowing that if I have to say a thing about this thing, it's going to be received well, right? Because it's like I have definitely been the person saying the shit that needs to be said and it not going well. So,
That's like that's such a terrible feeling, is it not?
oh my God. Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so it's nice to have found those people and to get me out the house. Did you get snow during the storm? I feel like we called around that time or like right before.
Oh no, I mean it was like a very, very, very chilly, like 50 degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm being dramatic, of
We
course.
got, I was stuck inside for like a couple days and it was like so depressing. I was
Mm.
like, I haven't seen people, and it was like right after I had gone to community events. So it's like my cup was so full and it was like whiplash because I was like super depressed like 2 days later. Um, but yeah, like getting out of the house and also just like trying to reestablish like practices for myself, right? Because it's like we can't bypass that, right? It's like we have one body, one vessel, so it's like, how am I caring for myself on all of the levels, like emotional, physical, spiritual, even financial, I don't know if I said physical, but all of the ols, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's
What
great.
about what about you? What's giving you joy?
Um, what is giving me joy is the warm weather. I know I said it was really a chilly 50 degrees a couple weeks ago. That was very cold for me because it's been really,
Hmm.
it's usually warm down here. But obviously I know it's not as cold as up there. But yeah, I think for me, going outside, getting fresh air and walking the neighborhood, and just taking time to not have any devices or anything and just looking outside and noticing
Hmm.
things has been giving me a lot of joy. Um, I've been gathering a lot of wisdom from nature on my
Hmm.
walks, which has been very nice. And I think it gives me an opportunity, like we talked about before, to like reconnect with my body, but then also to like tangibly feel and notice like my connection to everything else. Um, and yeah, that's been giving me a lot of joy. Because it's very easy to feel isolated in a very digital world. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, the other thing that's been giving me joy is the time that I get to spend with my grandparents. Um,
Hmm.
they, I don't know, I love being around, I don't know if I love being around old people, but I love being around these old people. And I think it must be something about like, I think when you get to a certain age, you just don't give a fuck anymore.
Hmm.
So I can ask questions and they like willingly, openly answer. You know, like I talked to my grandma. Again, I told she's has failing health. I talked to her like the other day about and asked her like, what's it like getting old? And like, what's it like being like closer to death than it is to like closer to the end than to the beginning? Like those are
Yeah.
really important conversations. And I don't think that many people are around older people enough to be able to get the answers. And I think that people who are around old people might would be too afraid to ask those questions. But it gives me
Hmm.
joy knowing that I can ask and like collect wisdom and all of that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Thanks for asking me that. Yeah, that's a good question.
It was
To
your question.
I know it's a good question to ask and to also answer. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
And I love what you said about, I loved both of your responses, but when you're talking about nature, it reminded me of like getting out to the park by my house, like with the snow, and it was so cool. I'll have to send you some pictures that I took. It probably it doesn't like live up to it, but there's just like this open field, and the snow had started melting, and so it was like mostly ice, but it still had like some snow on top. Like it wasn't like uh slick ice, right? It was
mhm.
like the ice that's about to like crumble. And it was just so cool because there were all of these from like footprints and things, there were all of these divots that had become puddles. And you could just see, and I was there like 2 days apart from each other. And the first day I like went up this hill and I turned back. Something just told me to turn back and the light was shining perfectly. And so you could see, and there was this little river and you could see this little river with just like the light shining. And it was just like so magical. And I'm like, no one is here with it's just me. Oh, it was on Valentine's Day. I went on a walk in the park on Valentine's Day. And I was like, this is so good. It's like my first love, the earth, you know? Yeah, it just reminds me because I do um, you know, try to like go outside every day, but that doesn't always mean that I am with nature every day, especially living in a city. And so really trying to be intentional about that because it's with the hustle and bustle of life, it's so easy to forget that it's like, okay, no, I want to, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but just like, let me just go into nature and just be for a minute,
Yeah.
and like help that have, I just feel so much more regulated and like and connected.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think more people should go out and touch some grass, get some fresh air for sure. It gives a lot of perspective. And I also think that one thing I've had to remind myself, and I've gotten much better about it, is like outside is not just the place you go to get to the next place.
Hmm.
Like it's the place you go to like feel at home.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that's been what I've been telling myself. But yeah,
Hmm.
love me some nature. And I was not always like that. Like I hated going outside for like the longest.
Mm.
But I think COVID, being forced to stay inside, was like the
Yeah.
catalyst I needed to be like, I gotta get out of here and see what's
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for this conversation. I told you
Yeah.
it wasn't gonna be formal and traditional, it was just gonna be casual.
Yeah. Yeah. I have anxiety though, you know. It's all right. It
Yeah.
just did.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you for having me. Thanks for reaching out. I'm glad that we were able to do it.